Join us for Youth Lounge with SKNYPA, a talk show on vital topics like tourism, entrepreneurship, education, religion, sex education, and mental health, featuring experts from St. Kitts-Nevis and the Caribbean region. Tune in live on ZIZ on the last Monday of each month at 8:30 p.m.
Can you believe it has been another month?
1 month.
And look who's back. Look who's back.
Yes, I am back on Youth Lounge with SKNYPA.
Look at that.
I know last month y'all had It's a Woman's World, so y'all were existing in your world, discussing really good topics. As much as I was not here, I still listened.
It was a good show.
Good show.
Good show.
Good show. But I'm happy to be back for this edition of Youth Lounge with SKNYPA.
What are we talking about today, Sandy?
I see you have on a nice shirt here, actually, Malika.
Look at Sandy.
And what does it say? Your fight is my fight. And our topic this evening will be sexual assault awareness. And so you would see from our backdrop design that we have teal and white balloons because teal is the color for sexual assault awareness. This show promises to be a very good one.
Yes. Keep you on the edge of your seat.
Yes. And we would ask you to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell their friend.
And their cousin too.
To come and join Youth Lounge with SKNYPA as we discuss sexual assault awareness.
Yes.
Malika, anything about our social media platform?
Be sure to follow us. Follow SKNYPA firstly on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channels. You can also watch us on ZIZonline and ZIZ TV.
Yes, so multiple options for each and every one of you to tune into this month's edition of Youth Lounge with SKNYPA. We'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back with our first guest for you guys.
Here are your Horseman's Value Mart IGA special.
Running April 20th to May 3rd.
Now your Value Club Blue Tax specials. Nature Valley granola bars just $13.49. Palm cooking sprays $13.49. Chef Warrior decanned pastas and micro pastas just $5.99. Essential and everyday canned fruits $8.99. Banquet brown and served breakfast sausages $8.99. IGA and essential everyday cereals just $9.99. And now our very low weekly
Value deals. Kind cereal bars $6.99. Post honey bunches of oats and pebble cereals family size $16.99. Hammer toothpaste $12.99. IGA and essential everyday frozen vegetables $5.99. Old Orchard apple juice $8.99. Orville red and Boca popcorn $9.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Tell them in Spanish.
sea listo y haga sus compras aquí en
Value Mart.
It's time that we realize that we must work together to thrive. The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see and the climate's changing.
But hope is remaining.
And we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we stand. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate, one Caribbean.
It's a sore throat. I'll write a prescription and see the nurse regarding the MMR vaccine.
I heard on social media that the COVID-19 vaccine came in a container with the MMR label on it.
Measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is in the vial, no other.
True?
We can't betray our parents' trust. St. Kitts-Nevis has always had an impressive immunization history.
But these diseases aren't around now.
Yes, Our borders are open to all kinds of diseases that negatively affect our children and elders.
I never thought about that.
Today, you have a choice whether you get vaccinated. So, you want to continue?
Yes, doctor.
I want to be protected.
Check your doctor or the Ministry of Health to get the information on immunization against childhood diseases, including HPV and polio, and COVID-19 vaccine for elderly persons and persons living with non-communicable diseases.
Welcome back to Youth Lounge with SKNYPA. If you're just joining us, we are from SKNYPA and we are discussing sexual assault awareness. And with us today we have Mr. Stephen Joseph. I'll allow him to introduce himself and share a little bit about his background.
Okay, good night everybody. My name is Stephen Joseph, as Hassani mentioned. A little bit about myself. I have worked in youth work and probation work over the last 10 plus years. I did it for church for a little bit. I did it for, government as a job. And I think that during that period of time, it just allowed me to get a very unique perspective on sexual assault and sexual awareness and a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. A little bit about me, I guess I try to do a lot of things. I think I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades.
Okay.
I love photography. It's a big distressor. I love adventure, so give me a hike any day of the week. I don't know, I guess you gotta ask me a question.
Okay.
It's really hard for me to talk about myself.
Okay, no problem. I think before we move on in this show, I think we want to just get a disclaimer out there that as we bring awareness to this sensitive topic, our aim is not to trigger emotions and things of that nature. We really just want to bring awareness and try to reduce and hopefully eventually eradicate the social ill of sexual assault. So we are asking our viewers and our commenters on our live streams just to be very careful of how you phrase certain things, as this can be a very touchy topic. You agree with me, Mr. Probation Officer?
Definitely.
Okay, amazing.
Definitely.
So I think we can jump right in with the question.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you saw the theme for this year's sexual assault awareness. I would like you to firstly touch on that and your thoughts on what it's saying that we should be.
I think for those who don't know what the theme is, it is joint connections, prevention demands equity.
Yeah. When I read that, it's interesting. I drawing connections. Okay, first of all, I'll be honest. It sounded a little vague to me because drawing connections. But I guess because we're talking about sexual assault awareness, it's drawing connections between that. Where my mind spins off to when I hear drawing connections, it's data. Looking at different data points. Let's figure out where this thing happens, where it comes from. All of the different things that contribute to it. Prevention demands equity. Equity is a very, very nice word. I love it. I love it way more than equality, because equality gives everybody the same thing, as we were discussing at a point in time. But equity is giving you what it is you need based on your specific needs.
It basically speaks to fairness, impartiality, equity, that is.
Yeah, but I don't think many persons understand equity, because there's this example all over the internet where equality, everybody got the same box to stand on, but then equity, it gave everybody a different size box, but allowed everybody to access the same thing.
Okay.
And I think once with equity, that's what I love about equity. It's all about everybody accessing the same thing. So if I'm missing 2 boxes worth to allow me to access something, then I think that is what should be sent my way. That is what fairness would look like.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the goal is to access the same thing.
Right, I agree. But when it comes to that specifically, when it comes to accessing the same things, if we're going to speak gender-wise, how can we access the same things?
I don't think you access the... Yes, you access the same thing. Because when you look at the goal, what is the goal? Doesn't matter what gender you are. What is the goal? If the goal is fairness when it comes to law, justice, then that's the same thing we're trying to access. When it comes to healthcare or anything else, we're all trying to access that. So then there are specific things to us as individuals that we want to access, right? But the things that we want to access that are specific to us is oftentimes for a greater goal, which is maybe happiness. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it in that standpoint, from that standpoint, we're all still trying to access the same things.
Got you. So when you look at, in the context of sexual assault awareness, forums like these, how do you think they are important in terms of spreading the word, educating persons? Like, what is the importance, really?
I think it's really important. I think where we kind of fall short from time to time is how we have the conversation. Mm-hmm. I don't think oftentimes we have a conversation where persons are really getting into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. There are a lot of things that are still left unsaid. And I think it's part of our culture where we hide things and we sweep things under the rug and we hope that they'll change. We want them to get better. But first of all, no one is willing to come forward. Mm-hmm. And then second of all, when that person does come forward, no one is willing to support.
But do you think it's a matter of a lack of trust or confidence within those persons who said come forward and speak about this thing that is happening to you or get help? Do you think persons have that confidence within the system?
Okay, I'll say this. The system is messed up. Mm-hmm. It's broken, right? We hear that all the time. But who or what makes up the system? We do. Mm-hmm. The system isn't just law enforcement. Mm-hmm. The system isn't just the judicial system. The system is all of us. And if we say the system is broken, then we're kind of broken too then, you know? And if you look at it from that standpoint, then you begin to ask yourself, what is it that I can do to move the agenda, well, not agenda, move the conversation forward? Mm-hmm. And then when you start asking yourself that question, then we can snowball into other things. So to answer your question more directly, I don't think it's a matter of just not having trust. I think at this point in time, sometimes we kind of use that as an excuse or a crutch that prevents us as individuals from doing what we know we should do.
I get what you're saying, but I do think that it takes more than just us as a people to fix the system. Like, yeah, we need to fix, per se, but I don't think it's just us.
Okay, so I'll say something that's a little controversial, but I think it speaks to the point. If there are a group of persons that are making noise about one specific thing all the time, when that thing gets fixed, the persons who are in power are happy, because they would have satisfied the will of the people, right? If the people don't have the will to speak about these things, the people who are the system, because we always talk about the power of the people, but we don't really actualize it in most senses. So you do that. If sexual awareness and sexual violence is truly something that is affecting our nation, then the awareness should be, or the campaign should be in such a way to get persons to come to the fore. Not just individual victims and so on, but get the voice, get people excited about it, get people angry about it, get people emotional about it, so much so that this becomes the topic of conversation at every level. And once you do that, it becomes like what I said before, it's like a pothole. Everybody complains about the pothole. Everybody posts about the pothole. Then guess what? The pothole gets fixed.
But do we want a temporary fix?
No, I never said that they'll fix the potholes
No,
correctly.
no. That's not outside of that. But do we want a temporary fix? Because are they going to fix the situation today?
We don't.
And then tomorrow we're back here
we
again?
don't. We don't want a temporary fix, and we don't want an individualistic fix. Because there are situations that we all know about where they fixed that issue for that person.
Because that person knows people.
Not just that, but because enough people made noise about it. So it's a level of embarrassment or anything because this aspect of the system didn't work or that aspect of the system didn't work. That's fine for that person. But how has that affected the system? It hasn't in some instances. So it goes back now to designing the campaign. Okay, we get people excited, we get people emotional. What's the next step? How you campaign is just as important as what you're campaigning about. Because if you're campaigning about legislative change, then that fixes it for everybody all the time. If you're campaigning about an incident, then all they need to do is fix the incident. So that is what happens. We always campaign about the incident and never the legislation.
That's deep. But in terms of campaigning, right? What do you think as some...
I think we're going to get in trouble for using the word campaign.
No, we're not speaking political campaign. But in terms of campaign, what do you think are some of the challenges that persons, victims perhaps, experience as it relates to the system?
All right. So I think it's culture and mentality, which kind of go hand in hand. We have a kind of point your finger kind of culture that happens all the time. So a victim comes forward, and the first thing that happens is I'm saying she because that's more prevalent. So, but I'll backtrack and I'll say, are they credible? That's the first thing people say.
Is the person credible?
Is the person credible?
Okay.
So instead of saying, hey, this situation should not happen to anybody, let's find out the facts, we're asking if the person is credible, which is nonsense to me.
Right, because why does that
I
matter?
think it also retards the investigation.
It does. Then, speaking of investigation, personal preferences need to be taken out. Persons in positions of authority or the authorities themselves cannot or should never become emotionally involved in the situation. You cannot choose a side. You cannot say, and this is the number one thing I hate to hear a person saying, she wanted it. Or she put herself in a position.
Wow.
Like, no one is addressing the fact that, I mean, you should
be free from assaults.
You should be free from assault, right? No, there are factors that contributed to the assault. Yeah, we could talk about that, right? But the very first point of contact should not be questioning it. It should be, hey, you experienced an assault. And one thing I know for sure is that if a person comes to you with a complaint, that complaint is very real to them.
Yeah.
And you must accept that it is real to them. It might not be real in reality, right? But it's real to them, and you must treat it that way. Because if you don't treat it that way, then that person will never come forward. They will never give you information ever again. So that's the first point. It has to be real to you because it's real to them.
Yes.
After you, what's the word I'm looking for? Once they bring that to you and you say, okay, hey, it's real, right? And you give them that comfort, then they give you the information. And then you're in a position to say, well, not to them, right? But you're in a position as an investigator to deduce what are the other factors that contributed here, right? While the victim gets assistance, whether it be psychological or anything like that, right? But I've heard of so many stories where victims go to the police station and they say something and the officers were like,
not you.
And have an attitude. Like, you don't get to have an attitude about something that's real to me.
It's a real comment you made when you said the situation must be real to you because it's real to them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times if we put ourselves in the position or in the foot, in the place of that person who is making that complaint, perhaps a lot of times we would perhaps take the complaint more serious.
Definitely.
Not only that, but then the person who's giving the complaint, they too give you more information than you've ever thought possible. One thing I learned about working in probation is that you have to be empathetic on levels that you didn't know exist. Because somebody's going to come to you with something and you'll be like, but you cannot be like, you have to be like, all right, let's go. Let's get this done. And once you do that, then they're going to say, well, I remember this and I remember that and so on. And then you have your pool of persons and you go and you do your investigation and you will see the truth will come out. And then when you bring that truth back to them and you say, yea or nay, because sometimes it is nay, right? You bring that truth back to them and you say, well, you said this, but, this is what we're finding. Do you want to elaborate? You don't come back and say, hey, you lie. You come back and you say, hey.
Approach is everything.
Yeah.
Approach is indeed everything. And how you respond to that nay.
One other thing, though. One of the biggest things that I see persons do not deal with and do not talk about when we talk about awareness, we don't speak about helping the perpetrator. In the sense that you can arrest a person for a crime, but if you do not treat the cause that led them to crime, they're likely to commit that crime again.
Is it that the equity that the theme speaks about?
Yeah, because
prevention demands equity.
Because they need help too. And it sucks to say that.
Yes.
It's the most unpopular opinion or position to have. But the truth is, they need help too, probably more so.
That's a good point, and I know we are engaging in discussion a little deep, but we have to take a short commercial break, and we'll come back to more discussion on sexual assault awareness. So don't change the dial, we'll be back.
It's all about the glam with stylish new frames from Kitts Optical. Shop today for up to 50% off and pay nothing for 30 days. Book now at www.kittsoptical.com. Get the look you want at the price you need. Plus, at Kitts Optical, our eye exams are always free. So what are you waiting for? Come down and get glam. With up to 50% off selected frames. Kitts Optical. Value you can see.
There is no better time to discover what your National Bank Visa debit or black cards can do.
Mimi, what's that song?
It can get you out of a pickle. Using my National Bank Visa card is fast, secure, and convenient.
Cashless SKN is our new lifestyle choice. National Bank, always here.
What did you mean earlier about climate change, Mom?
Well, when I was your age, I remember beautiful coral reefs and healthy beaches. The summers weren't as hot as they are right now, and the rainy season meant that it only rained when it was supposed to.
And then what happened?
The weather just started to change, and storms got worse. Coral reefs started to die because the ocean was getting too warm, and crops started to die because there was not much rain. We realized as adults that we were doing something that was causing this.
What were you all doing?
The same thing we're doing now. Not using clean, renewable energy, chopping down too many trees, and even polluting the air with gases such as the gases emitted from our cars when we drive around.
We need to help before it's too late, Mom. We can't let it get worse. What can I do? We can raise our voices.
With 35 million dreams, aspirations, and futures at risk in Cari Forum, we need your voice in our story against climate change. Acknowledge, commit, act. This message is brought to you by the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center under the Intra-ACP Global Climate Change Alliance Plus program and is funded by the European Union.
Hello and welcome to Event Extraordinaire. Today we wanted to introduce you to our sparkler boxes. Our sparkler boxes are customized to fit any occasion. And today we wanted to show you what exactly comes in a themed party sparkler box. So, here goes! Each sparkler pack contains enough items to have a party for 6 persons. So in addition to all the regular parts that come with a sparkler party, as in the cups, the spoons, the plates, and even the horns, we wanted to let you know that you also get masks, you get invitations, there are party hats, there's even a party banner, there's your usual loot bags, you get a tablecloth, and you even get blowers. Our sparkler boxes are available in a variety of themes. There's Spider-Man, Frozen, Paw Patrol, Minnie Mouse, Peppa Pig, any theme that you can imagine, Events Extraordinaire is here to supply. Please visit us today. We are located in Camps next to the 24-hour gas station. Our numbers are 767-6977 or 663-6227. Events Extraordinaire. Let's add the sparkle to your event.
Welcome back, welcome back. If you are just joining us, we are still here in the Youth Lounge with SKNYPA, and we are discussing sexual assault awareness. We are still here with Mr. Stefan Joseph, who ended before the commercial break speaking about the help that the perpetrators need. And I want you to focus on that some more, because I think to prevent repetition, we need to really focus on the alleged perpetrators in these scenarios. Because so many times in our societies, we find persons saying, well, that person was involved with do something along the lines already, like, how they let he get away, or how they let she get away, or something like that. So what do you think about let's speak about the topic, speak on the perpetrators needing the assistance.
All right, so perpetrators needing assistance, that is a heavy thing to say, because in most cases we want to see these persons burn.
Yeah, in our societies it's just like, what? How you do that? She do that?
Yeah.
Take him or her out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, in our society we can't necessarily just like take somebody up like that. We shouldn't. Let me say that. But there are very real problems that occur for persons to commit crimes. Some of it is psychological, some of it is emotional, some of it is all of the above, right? And that individual cannot break the cycle if they themselves don't know why they're doing what they're doing, right? Sadly, a lot of persons feel that they are on the side of right, you know? There are some persons who believe that an individual can give consent at any age.
Yeah.
Right? There are individuals who do not see age as a barrier whatsoever. They do not do the questioning of maturity and understanding of what they're doing. They don't. And that is something that needs to be addressed. And that's something that has been happening in our society forever. You have, you know, everybody grew up with the whole bossman mentality. You know?
Wow.
But have you seen a bossman prosecuted? Have you seen somebody taken to task because? Have you seen anybody evaluated because? And I think that brings me to answering your question. How do you help them? You must first identify them. You can't identify them without prosecution.
Yeah.
How do you get something to get to a prosecutory stage? Somebody has to report it. The evidence has to be there. But who wants to? So we have a catch-22 happening where no one wants to report the crime that everybody knows is happening, right? But then the less you report the crime, the less resources are devoted to that crime. So you end up in this tailspin where no crime is reported, no resources going towards it. And
no offender identified, no offender gets help.
Exactly.
Just a trickling and domino effect down, slippery slope.
So you're just coming right back, and then you know, to the point that you made, oh, that person has do it long time, this person has do it long time, and this is where I come to the community, like where were you when you knew this person was doing it a long time? Why didn't you report it? But then they'll say, well, you know, you know, I report it and they do nothing. Well, what is nothing?
Yeah.
Then on the flip side of it, there are persons who report, and then, as we just say colloquially, they are paid. They're paid off or paid to shut them out. Paid not to prosecute.
I learned in my days as a probation officer that when you commit a crime, you're committed against the state, right? However, I also know that a case is stronger when there is a clear victim. And if you get rid of the victim, then there's no case to be tried. And even if you try to try the case and that person doesn't speak up, then what are you going to prosecute on? I was watching the documentary on, you know, a certain recording artist that went to prison recently. And that was one of the things that I saw coming out. These persons were reporting it. They were saying stuff, but there wasn't much evidence to substantiate stuff. But even when there was evidence, a lot of people were paid off.
And I think it's just the vulnerability of our society. Though. Other persons, they just see this as their way out, like this big shot, do something to their daughter or their son, and it's almost like, well, they can pay me.
Right.
They can pay me.
That's exactly it.
I get rich off of them.
That's the mentality.
That's the mentality, and not more so prosecuting this individual, ensuring that this does not become a recurring feature in our societies.
And I'll say something that's unpopular too. The reason why that happens is because in most cases, persons don't want justice, they want revenge.
Yes.
So they want the person to suffer.
Justice
right?
must be seen.
Right? So
to take place.
Ain't nobody thinking about the 10 girls or boys
who is affected.
Who's affected. That
mentally, emotionally, or literally.
They're just saying,
again, this money.
He's going to come out of his pocket, or she's going to come out of their pocket,
and
everything goes away.
Yeah.
So we really got to tip our hats to those persons who stand up for justice being done, and who say, hold your money, I'm reporting this, you did this to my child, you did this to my relative, whoever, as you said, and you must be fairly prosecuted. You must be brought before a tribunal, and you must give yourself the evidence. My relative, my daughter, my son must give the evidence, and we will see what the state says.
I want to say something too, right? And this is more directed to the community. Boy, how do you say this nicely? Sometimes the community just needs to shut up. That's the best I could say, because the talk that surrounds the incident is what leads to a lot of persons not moving forward.
Yes.
There's a blame game. There's the credibility that we spoke about earlier. You know, they tear a person apart and this and that and so on. I remember a case recently where, you know, it ended unfortunate. And everybody was like, oh, well, you know, she kept going back to such and such. Like, no, that's not what you talk about.
It's a real issue, and especially in a small society, when we consider, even when the case reaches to the jury, like, you have to purge the jury's mind, because these are humans living in a small society. They come in here with the knowledge. As much as it may not be facts, they're coming in with some knowledge of the issue, and their minds are already prejudiced.
And that's the problem. We must be able to separate what you term as knowledge and facts.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time the fact of the case is that he or she is guilty.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we know that the young lady or the young man kept going back. We know.
Yeah, but why?
And we make that the topic of conversation. We're not supposed to make that the topic of conversation. Is it right or wrong that this happened? If it's wrong, prosecute. If it's right, then okay, we don't have a case. Simple as that. And that's the thought process behind having an age of consent, because the thought process or the logic is a person who is below the age of 16 has not arrived at the level of maturity to give consent to have sexual relations, right? They are not mature enough, whether they think so or not, right?
Whether their body says so or not.
Or not, right? So give yourself time, pump the brakes. The reason why the law should be so hard and so strict on persons who are above the age of 16 is because the law now sees you as somebody who has reached that level of maturity and has accepted the fact that if you, with all understanding, know that this individual is below the age of 16, you run for your life. But people don't believe in that. People say, oh, they're mature, or they're this. No. No. And because of those bits of knowledge within the community, that's why we don't see things happening, because the neighbor who knows that it's happening is not reporting it, and then the police officer who is hearing about it is in the community who knows that it's happening too, but then they're like, well, you know, she does do this all the time. No. Every time a child runs away, you're supposed to activate the same protocol. Every time a sexual assault happens, you're supposed to activate the same protocol. Whether it happened 50 times before or just once, it should be activated. What you should then do is, if this thing is being activated multiple times, over and over and over again, then you as law enforcement must ask yourself the question, well, why is this happening over and over again?
Evaluation.
Who do we move to, or who do we say something to not, because the goal is not to prevent it from being reported. The goal is to solve the situation or the crisis that causes it to be reported. And we don't do that. In our society, we fix the presenting problem, if I can say that, and we just leave it. So that's how things get swept under the rug. With a whole bunch of stuff. And when it comes to the payouts, man, people get paid.
And what I don't think we ever considered, or perhaps people have considered it. What about persons who just say, well, I prefer to take the money because I know them people ain't gonna do anything else.
I prefer to get the money than nothing at all.
I think they should be prosecuted to the same extent as the person who did the crime. Because
who takes the money?
it should be a crime that you prevented justice from happening.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. You should be
interfere with the process of justice.
There's a law called receiving, right?
Yeah.
Receiving of goods.
Yes.
And the penalty for receiving is almost the same or more for the person who stole the goods. Right? That should be applied here. If you know that a certain person is being sexually assaulted,
and you cover it,
and you
take money to hush,
you take money to be quiet, or you didn't say anything, you should be, I should be able to come after you, because you are a part of the problem. You are a big part of the problem, and that's what we have in our society. We have too many persons who are a part of the problem.
Wow.
So I know we spoke about the victim earlier. We spoke about the perpetrator. What about the persons who have to work with these people? How do they prepare mentally, physically, emotionally to deal with a victim who comes and says, I have been sexually assaulted?
Wow. How do you prepare?
Because I don't think we narrow enough, focus enough on the persons that have to work with the victims, with the perpetrators.
Yeah, that's a very strong point, because you must exhibit certain qualities to be able to work with the very vulnerable persons within our population. Preparing yourself for that, though, like I remember the first time I got a call for something that was sexually related. And I can tell you that there is nothing that I thought I was prepared. I really did. But there was nothing that I think could truly prepare you. Let me take that back, because the preparation did help. It gave me something to focus on, something to fall back on, right? So you go on autopilot. You have to take your emotions out of it, because if you walk into some of these situations, and people think that what they see on TV doesn't happen here, it happens here, right? So you have to take emotions out of it, and you have to be fair. And I've been in situations where, you know, and that's why I said the perpetrators need help too, because you had to be in situations where you had to sit down and listen to what the perpetrator had to say.
And you're like...
And you're, on one side of your mind, you're like, you really think that this makes sense? But then on the other side, you have to be like, I gotta listen to you.
Yeah.
We gotta get the facts in.
We got to get down to the facts.
Right? And so preparation comes with being able to emotionally check yourself. I think that's huge. You have to have massive interpersonal skills. You have to have empathy, and not just say you have empathy, but it has to be in practice. And because of all of these things, those are the things that you go on autopilot. You must know the regulations and legislation, because that is going to be your guide in terms of how you act and how you respond. And then you must, after dealing with the situation, you must be able to decompress.
Yeah.
I love fishing. I don't go fishing to catch fish. I go fishing to be doing something other than what I just saw that day.
Wow.
Right.
So you go, you throw the rod out in the water, and you just watch it there, and you're like, all right,
wow,
cool. You listen to the waves and so on. One of the things that helped me the most is family.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful wife. I have 2 kids, and you go home to them every single day, and it's like, yeah, okay, I could do this another day, right? Friends, close friends, you know, you go, and it's hard because you can't talk about what happened.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But what you can talk about, yo, today made me feel real horrible. Why did today make you feel really horrible? Well, I had to listen to something that I didn't want to listen to. So you can speak to the situation without speaking about it, but you have to be able to decompress. And I really wish that there were more support systems for officers who have to deal with it. There should be more training for officers who have to deal with the situations too, because if a person comes to you and they're talking about sexual assault, you must not traumatize them a second time. This is a person who just went through one of the most horrible things that can happen to a human being. And then for somebody to treat you and not validate what it is you're saying is the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, for them to be like sniggering in the background and not treating it with the same level of seriousness that you're treating it with. So all of these things have to be put in place, and all of those things help to prepare you as an individual that deals with the most vulnerable persons within our population.
Also, is there that need for detaching yourself from rumors? Because like even within my profession, sometimes things happen and there are stories or narratives that are being propelled, and I'm just like, I'm not going to listen to this because this person who they're talking about could end up in my office, and I may have to be defending them. So I don't want to poison my mind with nothing other than the facts. And so I could imagine as an officer, you're human, and these, a lot of times before they reach before the authorities, there are rumors circulating, a chain messages being sent around, forwarded many times on WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's why I said the community needs to shut up sometimes, because it makes things so hard for you as an officer. But to detach yourself, let's not kid ourselves. It takes it's a monumental task to detach yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not easy.
It's almost impossible. But you can do that, and in doing so, how you detach yourself, because you cannot detach yourself completely, because you have to be present, you have to be there, you have to let the individual know that, hey, I'm here with you. However, right, you can hear a rumor, and you must be able to say one or two things. You must be able to say, hey, well, this can't be here. And then the other thing is that if you as an officer find that this is clouding your judgment, you have the ability to recuse yourself. And you should recuse yourself.
That's a very good point to break on before we take a commercial break. As remind you, don't move the channel, the dial. Stay there. We'll be right back with more Youth Lounge with SKNYPA.
It's all about the glam with stylish new frames from Kitts Optical. Shop today for up to 50% off and pay nothing for 30 days. Book now at www.kittsoptical.com. Get the look you want at the price you need. Plus, at Kitts Optical, our eye exams are always free. So what are you waiting for? Come down and get glam with up to 50% off selected frames. Kitts Optical, value you can see.
What did you mean earlier about climate change, Mom?
Well, when I was your age, I remember beautiful coral reefs and healthy beaches. The summers weren't as hot as they are right now, and the rainy season meant that it only rained when it was supposed to.
And then what happened?
The weather just started to change, and storms got worse. Coral reefs started to die because the ocean was getting too warm, and crops started to die because there was not much rain. You know, we realized as adults that we were doing something that was causing this.
What were you all doing?
Same thing we're doing now. Not using clean, renewable energy, chopping down too many trees, and even polluting the air with gases such as the gases emitted from our cars when we drive around.
We need some help before it's too late, Mom.
We can't let it get worse.
What can I do?
We can raise our voices.
With 35 million dreams, aspirations, and futures at risk in Carry Forum, we need your voice in our story against climate change. Acknowledge, commit, act. This message is brought to you by the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center under the Intra-ACP Global Climate Change Alliance Plus program and is funded by the European Union.
Yeah, man. Another day in the books. Well, hello there. Ooh, she pretty from head to toe, and are you ready to go? Wait there. Whew. Can't afford to slip up. Not even in my dreams.
In cricket, there are a few essentials. A bat, a pitch, a ball, some fielders, and plenty of refreshments. Enjoy the cricket with Angostura Chill. Angostura Chill, the official refreshment partner of the Hero CPL T20.
Hi, and welcome to Events Extraordinaire. I'm Candice Franklin, and I'm the Managing Director at Events Extraordinaire, where we believe in adding the sparkle to every event. At Events Extraordinaire, we specialize in event planning, event management, photo shoot decor, just about any event that you can dream up, we can execute. Events Extraordinaire is located at OOJJ's Commercial Complex, which is right next to the 24 Hours gas station in Camps. So stop by anytime and you can partake in what we have to offer.
back. And we have another guest joining virtually, and I'll allow her to introduce herself. Okay, we have another guest that will join us virtually, but as we proceed with our conversation here today, I have a question.
Sure.
Currently, as of Monday, April 24th, 9:20 p.m., 2023, what is currently the procedure for reporting sexual assault?
Okay, so as a probation...
Not what it should be.
Yeah. as a probation officer, I could speak it from that standpoint. So you can, teachers and other persons are mandatory reporters. So they see it, they say it. They come to the office, or they can go to the Special Victims Unit or any police station, as a matter of fact, and make a report. If they come to us to make a report, the onus is on us to ensure that we report it to the authorities. Because at the end of the day, we're not an authority per se. We deal with things, but not that we're not an authority, but prosecution and crimes are handled by police always, right? So it has to be reported to them.
So as you speak about reporting, I think our virtual guest is here.
Okay.
And so if we can allow her to introduce herself to our viewing audience, that would be very good.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
It's night over here, Tawana.
I'm sorry?
It's night.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, good night, everyone. My name is Tawana Collins. I am a former National Carnival Queen. I am a scholarship student and currently in Taiwan doing my bachelor's degree in International Business and Trade.
All right, Tawana, good night, good night, good night. As you are aware, the topic for tonight's show is sexual assault awareness. And jumping right in, firstly, let's start with, how would you encourage victims to step out and say what happened? Not even just to report, but to say what happened. Get it off their chest and say, this has happened to me.
Okay. First of all, don't ever be afraid. Don't be afraid of what people think about you, what people will say about you. Because at the end of the day, it's you against yourself. You're going to be battling with yourself. Because then, me personally, what I did, I tried to hold it in. I tried to hide it from everyone. And it did not do me any justice. I needed to talk. I needed to be a voice. I needed to be heard. Because then I can be saving someone from this happening to them in the future. And I wanted to be that voice for all the young women back home and around the world. So don't ever be afraid. Say it, get it out, report it, tell someone.
In speaking about being a voice, do you think that there are platforms out there for victims to openly speak about what has happened to them?
I think there are. I think there should be platforms for people to openly speak, because then what happens is some people usually feel alone. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Like, some people feel alone, as though people don't understand where they are coming from, because then usually we are the ones to blame. So I think that people should join groups, join any platform to talk about it, talk to the different people, talk about the different experiences, and just get a feel of how everybody copes with how they cope with that situation particularly.
What did support mean for you? Whether it be family, friends, what did that mean for you at that time?
For me, it was everything. It was everything. Even after leaving St. Taiwan, I still had my case ongoing. There were times where I felt trash. I felt like absolute trash. I felt dirty. I was in disgust. And my roommate, she was one of the greatest help. Like, she came outside, she saw me on the floor, tore up, crying. She did not know about it. Broke it down to her, tell her exactly what happened, and she has been one of my biggest supports. So you're going to need somebody to be in your corner, especially when you're in a foreign country, when you don't have family or friends, because phone call is one thing, but you need a hug. You need somebody to tap your back. You need somebody to cry with you and sympathize with you. So always have somebody in your corner who will listen to you and don't judge you.
In time, during reporting and either prosecuting the case, did you feel like you wanted to retreat? Did you wish that this thing was never reported?
Yes. Yes, I did. Because it's not easy. It's not easy because sitting down on the Zoom call, just looking at everyone in the courthouse, it was a bit petrifying. And then you're reliving the nightmare over and over. You keep having to re-explain the situation. You're having questions drilled at you because, well, that is exactly what is expected. But it's like a living nightmare. Sometimes I wanted to tell my lawyers, listen, cut it. Just life was good without it. Let me continue to live without it. But it shouldn't always be like that. You can't always show people that weak side of you. You have to be strong, especially for yourself.
So I know you traveled after the incident. Did you feel like you were getting away from all that was happening, or did you feel like this thing was going with me?
At some point, I felt like I was getting away from the public, getting away from people approaching me at work, saying, "Good job, you're strong. Thank you for reporting it." It was not the best feeling. So I felt like I was getting away, but at the same time, when reality kicked in, and I realized, okay, I had to deal with it while I'm here as a student, which was even harder because most times it came up during around my midterm and exam, and it was very hard to balance that case because here I am in the morning with you when it's night. Well, it was the other way around for me. It was morning for the cases and night here. So sometimes I'm on a call 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I felt like my demons were trying to follow me everywhere. I really felt like my demons were coming with me. But when I realized, okay, this is it. It's either a win or lose situation. It's going to come to an end at some point. It's not every day. So outside of that, I always try to look at everything in a positive light. It's not every day. You don't have to deal with it every day. You don't have to think about it every day. You don't have to be back home where everybody knows you and brings it up every day. So I was running away. It followed me, but it's still a breath of fresh air, being away from the public.
Tawana, outside of family support, did you have like a physical escape that you would use to not focus on what was going on in life, even out there? What was that escape per se?
Me personally, it was alone time. Sometimes I used to go in the park, listen to some music. Sometimes I'm walking and crying. It was hard, but that was my escape. Being in the outdoors, breathing in the fresh air, just walking alone, clearing my mind. People probably thought I was a bit crazy because I was talking to myself. But if that's what it takes to feel at peace, do whatever you have to do.
I think it's important that you said do what you have to do, because I think sometimes there is a blanket approach that is taken to these kind of incidents, and so you reinforcing the need to do what you need to do. Because as you said, it may be walking in the park and listening to music and talking to yourself for you, but for somebody else it may be taking a trip or doing that thing that you love the most. So I want to ask you, what would you say to family members of victims? I know sometimes you want to be there for that individual. You want to make sure they're doing good at this point all the time. What would you say to individuals who are eager to just offer that support? Family members or friends, what would you say to them?
Okay. What would I say to them is, make sure you listen. Don't listen to hear, listen to understand. You may not fully understand because it's not you. It did not happen to you. But try your best to be that ear, because at the end of the day, we all just wanted somebody to listen to us. And that's personally what I wanted. But everybody is different, because when family members tried to comfort me, I did not want that. I wanted to be alone. I find peace in being alone than being with family members telling me that it's okay. Somebody else would want their family members to tell them it's okay. And also, for us, be open, because not everybody means bad for you. Some people really want to see you win. So we have to be open enough to accept those people to comfort us. But like I said, everybody is different.
I think that especially for victims, we have to realize that it's okay not to be okay. Like, it will get there eventually, but you know, you might be going through it right now, and that is fine. If you need to break down, do what you need to do. It's going to get to a point where you're going to be like, whew, can't believe that's really what happened. It's not something that you can run away from. It will always be a part of you. But it's going to reach that breath of fresh air where you could finally breathe and breathe properly, because it's not a weight on your shoulders. It's not bringing you down. It's not throwing you down the steps. I mean,
you have to understand what triggers you. If you have a friend that gives you that constant reminder of that, then drop that friend. If you go to work and you feel like the environment is not good, especially because you're going through it, leave that environment. Understand and know what triggers you, because then if you don't deal with it, it's going to keep reoccurring, and then that won't be good for your mental state. It won't.
In the lounge, we were speaking about perpetrators. And we were saying that perpetrators also need help to prevent the repetition of incidents of that nature. What did you want for your perpetrator?
Me? Personally, I never thought about that, but if I have to think about it now, maybe some form of counseling. Because then you as the perpetrator need to understand, take accountability of what you did. Not just jail time. Jail time is not enough for people, in my opinion. You go, you sit down in a jail cell, okay, then what? You come out, then what? You repeat the cycle, what? It's a mental state. Counseling, talking to a therapist, psychiatrist, I can't even call the word, but one of those, I think they can really help the person. Understand, okay, why do I do this? What about it makes me happy? What about targeting people, seeing people miserable, hurting them brings joy? It shouldn't be like that, because same way I needed to go to counseling. I needed to talk about it. There were times when I sat down in the chair and just looked at the lady for the full hour and said absolutely nothing. There were times she's talking to me and I did not hear her. But eventually, you get comfortable. And I think that's what they need. Somebody to listen to them as well. Talk about it. Say you have this, you need help. Because in the long run, it's not a healthy habit, it's really not.
Happy that you're advocating for persons to get help, both the victim and the perpetrator. Because a lot of times, we were earlier discussing that a lot of persons seek revenge instead of justice, and I think that you have a very good outlook on the situation.
Revenge doesn't help. It really does not help, because then you still have to live with what happened. You seek out revenge, but you still have to live with what happened to you. It doesn't make you feel better. It makes you feel good to know that you hurt the person, but then how does that help you? It doesn't. So the best thing to do is to always seek help.
I think too, it's more of instant gratification when it comes to revenge. I will feel good, because emotions are not something to just throw aside. In a lot of cases, you will feel good in that moment, but like you said, how does that help you? You still have to live with it. So after the week passes where you feel good that this person has been hurt, or they feel something similar to what I felt, or what you went through, then what? because now you still have to work through that situation, and then on top of that you have to work through the revenge that you sought.
Yeah, your conscience.
You know, so you know complicate the situation even more, but it's not always easy to know the difference between revenge and justice. And you know, thank you for knowing the difference, because that's something that I think I can't say, or you know, many other persons can't say, because we're not victims, you know. So for you to say it, it carries a lot more weight than if any of us would say it.
I think I want to ask a question on advocacy, in terms of you advocating for victims, and what have you done? What has the situation caused you to do as a means of advocating for similar victims of similar situations?
Well, I can't really say I've actually done much. However, there were different people that reached out to me with similar cases, and it gave them a sense of hope, knowing that they can move past what has happened to them. And by the way, some of these women described their experience. It was very gruesome to listen and to even bear or even think about. And I'm like, wow. So here I am struggling, and then here is someone else who has had worse. And it made them feel better, because then now they're more open to talk to other people about what happened to them, and say, if this happened to you, or if it ever had happened to you, just don't be afraid. You're not alone. Always reach out and talk to someone. Don't be afraid to report it, because then you're helping somebody else who has probably been a victim of that, from that same person or somebody else different.
To that is that not everyone needs to be an advocate. You mentioned something that was very, very important earlier on in your discourse. When people come to you and tell you, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. You stood up. You know, you said something. You're a beacon and shine," that comes with a pressure in and of itself. It puts you. It crushes you, or it seemingly crushes can crush a person under that weight of expectation, under that weight of being in the spotlight. And you know, like you said, you have to relive it every single time a person comes to you and says, "Good job," or gives you a pat on the back. For a victim, it's not always remembering the good job. It's sometimes remembering that something really bad happened to me. You know, and so everyone should not be sought after to be an advocate. Sometimes we just got to leave people alone and let them go through and deal with their situation, let them heal, let them become whole, and just like not pressure them. I find in a lot of instances, you just need to let people know that you're there. Like you said, you sat down in the room with the counselor and you said nothing. But in just doing that, in that person just remaining steadfast and being there, that is what allowed you to open up eventually. Because now you know that there's somebody here who is willing to listen, who is willing to learn. And we don't always have to have the right thing to say. Sometimes we just need to sit down, keep our mouths closed, and just listen. And if nothing is what we listen to, then we come again and we listen to nothing again, until there is something to listen to.
But in this silence, there is something that is happening.
What's happening is that they know that you are here. There are many times that you know, you just go, and just like we're sitting on the couch, you sit next to the person, they're not saying anything, and then eventually they would reach out a hand, and you know, they cry in the corner or anything like that. You just let them be, and then after you let them be and they speak to you, then you move forward. But again, everybody doesn't need to be everybody else's superhero. Sometimes the best thing you can do to be a superhero is to you report it, and then you go back to your corner to heal, to become whole, so that you don't become a threat to society yourself.
Yes. Because in some instances, some people change their behavior. Some people lash out towards their family and friends. And I didn't want to be one of those, because sometimes my mom, she tried to comfort me, and I'm like, no, just leave me alone. Like, I've done that to my friends and family. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to anyone. And I felt bad at some point, because then they're just trying to be there for me. But as you said, my corner. I want to be in my corner. Just sit down in front of me, look at me. You don't have to say anything. I'm that type of person. You don't have to say anything to me. Just sit with me. Let me breathe. I will talk, but on my terms. But some people really try to pressure to get you to talk to them. It doesn't always work. Everybody's not open to it. It's a very ticklish topic. So you can't always expect your loved ones to want to open up and talk about, hey, this is how I felt. No, it's really not. It's really not. Right now I feel emotional thinking about it, because it was really hard.
In a lot of instances, it's about regaining control too. There's something that happened that you couldn't stop for all intents and purposes. You had no control. So your little corner is your little safety. It's the place where you are in control. You choose what happens there. And if you invite someone into that space, then great. But I mean, there's a very delicate balance between being in your corner and getting help, because you still need help. But that's why we have trained professionals. That's why we should encourage persons to go to trained professionals, because they are there to navigate or help you navigate that thin line between getting help and self-imploding, you know? And I'm happy that you didn't self-implode, because then that would be a double loss, you know? And it's just, you see, this conversation in and of itself, what we're doing, that's advocacy enough. Mm-hmm. That's awareness enough, without having to put you through and put you on the spot, you know, so often. You know, so thank you so much for that.
Yes, Tawana, before we take a short commercial break, I just want to thank you for accepting our invitation to be a part of our show as we bring awareness to sexual assault, both the victims and the perpetrators. So thank you again for accepting, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
We'll take a short commercial.
Have a good
night.
We'll take a short commercial, and we'll be back with more Youth Lounge with SKNYPA.
Want to get away? Now you can.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your National Bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
It's time that we realize that we must work together to thrive. The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see and the climate's changing.
But hope is remaining.
And we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we stand. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate.
It's a sore throat. I'll write a prescription and see the nurse regarding the MMR vaccine.
I heard on social media that the COVID-19 vaccine came in a container with the MMR label on it.
Measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is in the vial, no other.
True?
We can't betray our parents' trust. St. Kitts-Nevis has always had an impressive immunization history.
But these diseases aren't around now.
Yes, our borders are open to all kinds of diseases that negatively affect our children and elders.
I never thought about that.
Today, you have a choice whether you get vaccinated. So, you want to continue?
Yes, doctor.
I want to be protected.
Check your doctor or the Ministry of Health to get the information on immunization against childhood diseases, including HPV and polio, and COVID-19 vaccine for elderly persons and persons living with non-communicable diseases.
Hi, and welcome to Event Extraordinaire. I'm Candice Franklin, and I'm the Managing Director at Events Extraordinaire, where we believe in adding the sparkle to every event. At Events Extraordinaire, we specialize in event planning, event management, photo shoot decor, just about any event that you can dream up, we can execute. Events Extraordinaire is located at OOJJ's Commercial Complex, which is right next to the 24 Hours gas station in Camps. So stop by anytime and you can partake in what we have to offer.
Welcome back to Youth Lounge with SKNYPA. Again, if you're just joining us, we are discussing sexual assault awareness. Now, we just had a very interesting interview with Ms. Tawana Collins. And one of the things that came out of that interview was the fact that not everyone needs to be an advocate. You go through what you go through, you report what you go through, and you go back to your corner. Speak to us about that a little, Mr. Joseph.
You see like how he says that? Like, speak to us. Speak to us. It's not to say that, you know, you don't say something. You say something, but you see these lights? These lights, they're not only blinding and hot, but with the spotlight on you, you feel as though you can't make a mistake. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I suffer from that a lot, where I prefer not to do interviews and stuff like this, even though there's something that I want to say, because I don't want anybody to kill the messenger and forget the message.
Yeah.
And sadly, in our society, especially when it comes to sexual crimes, they shoot the messenger 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So that's something that we have to be cognizant of, that if we don't have that support or those support systems that are in place for these persons, then we have to allow persons to do what they are confident and capable to do, and not try to push them to be this great source of change or this advocate, when the truth is you're really and truly just fracturing their mental state. So that's why everybody doesn't need to be an advocate. It takes years to get over things, and so not even get over it. It takes years to get accustomed to thinking about something that happened to you, right? And be comfortable enough to share it. And to have to share that repetitively, that takes a skill that not everybody will be able to have. So we must keep that in mind when it comes to persons. We go, our job is to get them justice. As a society, as legislators, as politicians, as everybody, our job is to get them justice. After we get them justice, whatever they do after that is up to them.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that just reporting you're being a champion for somebody.
Exactly.
Encouraging them to come forward with your story.
Exactly.
And I think that, as what Tawana would have mentioned, that person's reached out to her. And for her, even with some more gruesome stories than hers, and she was able, I guess, to be that motivation for them to come forward with their story.
And preferably, you know, that should be done in a safe space.
Yes.
Because, you know, emotions are very real, and they can run wild When you have multiple persons who have had a traumatic experience, you always want that there is direction and learning from that traumatic experience and growth. You don't want, and it happens so often in our society, even when we're trying to be champions of justice, we have this bonfire mentality where we're just getting ready for war, you know, painting our faces, not necessarily dealing with the issue, you know? So when you have these traumatic experiences, safe spaces come into play. You must have safe spaces where you can decompress, because that's really and truly what it is. You're decompressing, you're allowing yourself to be human, you're allowing yourself to just fade away from the lights, from the attention, and be you in a very, very tense moment, you know? And that is very tricky to navigate. And again, that's why I think we should really look towards getting professional help. Getting professional help doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't. I've sought professional help for things that I've gone through in my life because there were some things that happened in my life. And so I sought professional help because I knew that ain't no way I could navigate it on my own. And friends are great, but sometimes friends are going to be the ones that say, yeah man, and encourage you. And really and truly, it should be no, pump the brakes, right? So you need somebody who's objective. So that's why I had to do it. I'm not crazy. I don't think anything I've said tonight makes me crazy. No. But it's still a taboo topic for people to get professional help.
I think one of the biggest things that I'm walking away with from that interview is also the fact that she wanted help for her perpetrator.
Yeah, that's.
And I think it underscores the point, as you mentioned earlier, that we should really seek justice and not revenge. And I think it also capitalizes on the fact that our prison system needs that rehabilitation aspect to be properly invested in, so that when persons are perpetrators of these crimes interact with the system, they come out a changed person, and not that they would have done jail time.
Yeah.
But that they were rehabilitated in the process.
Something that's huge too is because it's within the making connections aspect of the theme. You know, we need to make the connection to why something happens. And in making that connection, we can prevent. So it's not just about persons being rehabilitated, no. It's also about preventing.
Yes.
Our society needs to be educated as to why these laws exist.
But rehabilitation also helps with prevention.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I totally agree with you.
Yes.
But if we focus a lot on mitigative matters, you know, how young men see women, how young women see men, if we focus on things like what constitutes consent,
what constitutes sexual harassment, because these unwarranted calls, like cat calls to women, and the seeps in, and the comments that you make when they're passing, like those are unwanted.
I don't know what's strange. It's like, okay, I have friends who would say, I was walking in the road and guess what here? And 9 times out of 10, you could guess exactly what they heard.
Like persons, persons need to understand.
New material, really.
And
they need no material, to be honest.
And these things happen in the workplace, home, on the street, everywhere.
It's literally
persons don't understand. They think that just as seems, but you're making that person feel uncomfortable, intimidated.
I hate when we're having a conversation about one thing and we bring something else in it. So for instance, a young lady is speaking about sexual harassment, and someone jumps in and says, well, women just do it too. I hate that. You know why?
Like,
because you're basically saying that this thing that is important to me is now relegated to everything else. Right? Let's deal with the fact that this woman felt a certain way because she was catcalled. And then, after we dealt with that, let's deal with the fact that men get catcalled too.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't matter who does it, actually.
No, it doesn't matter.
It takes place and it needs to stop.
Exactly. But in our approach to dealing with it, let us not devalue someone's experience by saying that it
has happened to this person too. Yeah.
And that's what we do every single time.
Minimizing.
So it's like, okay, men,
trivializing
to you.
The experiences.
Hold your thought. Let's deal with the women. Let's get this sorted out first. Once we get this right, we're going to come to you. Not saying that if something happens to you, you don't come to the fore.
Yeah.
You do. But if we're having a discussion about what happens to women, let's have that discussion. When that discussion is concluded, let's have the discussion about what happens to men.
Yeah.
Right? Do not devalue what women go through or say, oh, it's just the seeps. Like, it's not just the seeps. To them, validating someone's feelings and emotions and something is very, very important.
And it goes right back to what we started with. This situation is real to that complainant, and it should be real to us.
Right.
And I think, guys, on that note.
Wait, one other thing.
Yes.
You spoke to, and I'm going to do this as fast as I can. You spoke to, we need to educate ourselves on what is sexual harassment and so on, right? Another thing that we need to educate ourselves is like, yo, when you have these videos that you're passing around, like, that constitutes it. You're part of the problem.
Yeah.
When you do that, you devalue. You're helping to devalue a person. The community noise where they're discrediting a person because now they're looking at this scene and having a judgment and having an opinion.
Yeah.
Those things, those are the little things. Well, not little, but these are the things that feed into persons not wanting to come forward, and then the fact that people don't get justice when they're being paraded in front of society at their worst. It's bad enough. I heard somebody said it. It's bad enough that someone was seen at their worst. Don't make it worse by passing it on and making that person continue to relive that experience. You know? So yeah, that's
definitely a good point to end on. I think that this episode was a very somber one because of the topic that we were addressing. Nonetheless, I think that it was very informative, and I think that we brought awareness to the topic. As our shirt says, your fight is our fight.
Where's my shirt?
We'll get you one. But I think that we explored a lot this evening, and we want to thank you, Mr. Joseph, for joining us here in the Youth Lounge as we continue to discuss topics that are relevant to us as young people, and as we continue to chart the course forward, and as we continue to develop our nation as young, aspiring leaders. I want to also thank those who made this show possible. We want to, of course, thank Events Extraordinaire for our lovely backdrop design, beautifully and skillfully curated by Events Extraordinaire. We want you to check them out, of course. We want to thank Miss Collins for joining us in the show this evening and sharing her experience with us and giving us tidbits of knowledge and just letting us know that you can want more than just revenge for your perpetrator, amongst other stuff, of course. This was by no means an awesome show.
Of course.
And
but before we end, we do have an announcement.
Yes.
You mentioned that victims need a safe space
and a platform
to express what they're going through, and not just use the police as that safe space, even if they need to seek professional help.
Yes.
Well, as my 2023 initiative, I am launching SAFE, which is a sexual assault foundation for everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Look out for that in the near future.
Awesome.
And hope to have it up and running, and it'll be hand in hand.
And in the meantime, there's also the National Counseling Center.
Yes.
That's a service that everyone can access. So, find a safe space. And
so we big up Malika one time for launching soon her new venture, SAFE. We ask you to look out for that, as well as that is also a platform and is also a part of bringing awareness to sexual assault. So that will be it for this evening's edition of Youth Lounge with SKNYPA, and we'll catch you back here next month on the last Monday. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Join us for Youth Lounge with SKNYPA, a talk show on vital topics like tourism, entrepreneurship, education, religion, sex education, and mental health, featuring experts from St. Kitts-Nevis and the Caribbean region. Tune in live on ZIZ on the last Monday of each month at 8:30 p.m.